All right, this is the 2017 NCEA 2 Algebra final, and this one here says, this is question 3c, by the way. It says the values for k for which the expression blah is always greater than 0. I'm going to find the values of k for which makes that thing true. So really what we're talking about is y is equal to this thing here. So you could actually draw that up roughly, and I'm going to make it really rough. I've got no idea actually how this looks. Because I haven't bothered plotting it at any point. But because this is greater than 0, it means we've got a parabola of some sort which does not cross the x-axis. Here's my x, here's my y, here's my parabola, which heads off in different directions, but it doesn't cross the x-axis. And because it doesn't, it means the discriminant of this thing here, the discriminant must be less than 0. So let's have a look how that plays out. So we're going to find the values of k, which makes this true. But I'm also going to add that there's so many ways of doing this. We'll kind of glance upon a couple of them as we go through. But the main thing is to realize this being algebra, multiple approaches are possible. So first of all, let's use the discriminant to find the value of k, which makes this the way it is, which makes that true. So we've got b squared minus 4ac has to be less than 0. So we've got values. What do we got? Well, there's my a value right there. It's a k. A is equal to k. My b value, there's my b. It's negative 12. b is negative 12. And c is the last bit there. It's 5k. There it is. The a, b, and c, by the way, being the coefficients of my x squared, my x to the 1, and my x to the 0, which of course is just 1, which you don't see there. Let's populate the discriminant with our values. So we've got b squared. In fact, I'm not going to rewrite it out again. That's a bit silly. So we've got b squared, which is negative 12 squared. There it is. Minus 4 times a, which is k, times c, which is 5k, and all of that being less than 0. So what do we got here? That's going to be 144 minus 5 fours are 20, k squared less than 0. So you could actually start to now draw this thing. I would simplify it a little bit. First, I would divide everything by, if you divide everything by 20, if you divide everything by 20, if I divide everything by 20, divide everything by 20, what's that? It's going to be 144 divided by 20. 144 divided by 20 is 7.2. So I've got basically, this is going to be 7.2 minus k squared is less than 0. And that fundamentally is the equation we're going to be dealing with, yeah? So let's draw that up. Here we go. Here's my equation. But this is for the values of k. So I'll put a k here. And I put a 0 here. If we were to then subtract 7.2 from each side and go ahead and do that, in fact, let's do that right now. Let's subtract 7.2. So, by the way, this is less than 0, but the moment we start subtracting and multiplying out, that's going to change the nature of the inequality. But just so you know, right now, at this moment, if we were to draw this up, this thing here would look like this. And the value here is 7.2. And this, by the way, is f of k. And this is our k-axis. And these points here are going to be the square roots, plus or minus, of 7.2. So let's have a look what that would be. So let's go square root of 7.2 is going to be 2.6. I'll go 2.68. So 2.68. This is going to be 2.68. That's a negative. And because this is less than 0, the values are going to be not up here because these are greater than 0. We want less than 0. The values are going to be down here. So it's going to be this value here and here and here. And the values are going to be, in other words, the values aren't going to be inside here. The values are going to be the values outside here. So the values of k, which make this true, are going to be k is going to be greater than 2.68, and it's going to be also k is going to be less than negative 2.68. And that's going to be how we would calculate our solution. However, I think looking at, actually I had a peek at their answer, and they actually want the graph doing differently. So let's do it the way that they want. So I'm going to go like that. That's the way I would do it. And the nice thing about this is it keeps the integrity of this being less than 0. Therefore, we look at the values that are less than 0 in order to find out which sides of this parabola are we going to look at. So it's going to be this side here being not including 0.6268, but less than negative 2.68 and greater than 2.68. So it's going to be on this side here as well. All right, so let's have a look at what they would suggest. So they would get up to here, and they got 1.44 minus 20k squared is less than 0. Then we're going to subtract 144 from both sides. Perfectly reasonable way of doing it, 144. So now we've got negative 20k squared is going to be less than negative 144. Now, I want to divide both sides by negative 20, so I'm going to divide this by negative 20. I'm going to divide this by negative 20. And then my k squared now, and I'm going to put an equals here. And the reason I'm going to put an equals is because I want to find the critical values, and they were going to be 7.2. So 7.2 is what we're after. But, of course, I put an equals because what I'm really wanting, I want the critical values here. The crit vowels I'll put, yeah? We don't want the greater than, less than. We want to find out what are these two things here. So I'm going to find the square root of this side, square root of this side, which is going to be plus or minus, of course. So k is going to equal either plus, and this is going to be 2.68 is what we got, yeah? And of course, when we've got this, we've now got, when I put this on the other side, I've multiplied, divided both sides by a negative. So I have to change now the inequality. So it's very important to realize I've now done that, yeah? So I've got k squared is greater than, and I've got that there, which is this thing here, k squared. So k squared, what I'm going to graph now is k squared is greater than 7.2. Now, the effect of that is quite profound, because, of course, it means now I've got a graph that looks like this. Here's my function of k. Here is my k over here. And, of course, it means I've got a 2.6 over here, 2.68, and I've got a 2.68 over here, which is a negative. And now my graph, of course, is going to be positive. It's going to be like this. Yeah, it's going to be going like this. Yeah? And, of course, this point here is going to be negative 7.2. Yeah? So in order to find this now, we're not interested in things that are less than 0. We're interested in things that are greater than 0. So greater than 0 values are going to be these ones here and here and here and here, because this, of course, goes up like this. This goes up, so it's going to be values that are greater. So in effect, we're going to say that k here is going to be greater than 2.68, or k is going to be less than negative 2.68. So that's just a couple of ways of which you could do this. It doesn't really matter which. They're both essentially the same thing. It's just that if you go by the answer that they've got, they insist that you have the graph a certain way around. In fact, they've actually written here, I'm going to read it off their answer. It says, graph is always above the x-axis, so k is greater than 0. Well, of course, that's not true at all. K can be, as we found here, actually less than 0. So it depends which way you draw the graph, yeah? But nonetheless, though, either or is good. Choose the way you want and go with that. Hopefully that makes sense.